So to clean your machine, we have this little cleaning kit that has these little soft bristle brushes. They work really well. I have an older one that I use, and I use the canned air. And this is a little cleaning cloth that's kind of cute for your screen or whatever part of your sewing machine you need to use that on. And we sell this here at the shop. This one is $8.98. We also sell this Tooltron here at the shop. It's $8.49. These 4 items is what I use to clean. The Goo Gone I don't use as much, but maybe on your electronic or computerized machines, it might be easier to use the Goo Gone instead of spraying the air. And Q-tips, and those are the things we use to clean our machine. Hi Quilty friends, it's Aunt Pam here at Aunt Pam's Closet in Henrietta, Texas. My website is auntpamscloset.net. Our Facebook is Aunt Pam's Closet. Our Instagram is @_Aunt Pam's Closet. Today we're going to talk about the untalked about conversation of cleaning your sewing machine. I don't know why this isn't explained when you buy a machine. I don't know why people don't talk about this very often, but keeping your machine cleaned and oiled is critical to how well it runs. Now, you have to take into consideration whether your machine is mechanical or whether your machine is electronic or computerized. You will clean them differently. On my machine, my favorite machine is a 401A Singer. It's all mechanical. I think it's the best machine ever made. I love this machine. They sew really fast. They're gear driven, not belt driven. They have all metal parts. They clean up very nicely, and they do not have all the bells and whistles of an electronic one. You have to thread your own needle and you have to cut your own thread. But other than that, I think they stack up beautifully for simple sewing. And they have some decorative stitches as well and a buttonholer, but in my opinion, they're a great machine. So we're going to talk about cleaning my mechanical machine today. Now I want this understood that I have not cleaned my machine so that there would be stuff for you to see. So normally when you clean your machine, you should clean your machine and oil it at least once a week if you sew heavily. And by heavily, I mean, in my position, I sew nearly every single day on my machine. So at least once a week, I clean it out and I try to oil it. I may not oil and grease every single part of it, but the part near your bobbin, I do that weekly. If you are sewing hot and heavy, then you may want to change your needles and clean it out more frequently. It depends on what you're sewing. My machine, I oil it and grease it in 3 different areas, and I'm going to show that to you today. The first thing you do is you take out your thread if you have it threaded. Get it out of your way. And take out your bobbin. My machine comes apart real easily. This lifts up and you can bring out your bobbin shuttle or race. I don't know, some people call it different things. The things of your trade to clean your machine, I use canned air on mine. If you have a computerized sewing machine, I do not recommend you using canned air, just because I don't want to be liable for messing up your machine. If you learn to point your canned air out and not inside, you'll be fine, but you really shouldn't use canned air if you're on your electronic machine, just because if you blow fuzz or anything like that in on your machine, it could short out your computer motherboard or computer components, whatever they call that. Anyway, So the things I do is I take all of my throat plate off. And if you look, you can see I have dust bunnies. And once you have them out of there, you can use a Q-tip. The part that holds your shuttle, there's usually a lip on it, even on the electronic machines, and you can pull stuff out up underneath that lip. I think it's pretty important to clean that pretty thorough. The reason you clean your machine is because it can affect the way your feed dogs work. It can affect the way your stitches connect. There's all different kinds of things it affects. Your tension. And so once you have this, and you get all kinds of stuff. Now, like I said, just remember, normally my machine doesn't always look like this. And wherever you have metal on a mechanical machine is where you can put oil or grease. On mine, I have gear, so I use grease in a couple of places, and I'll show you that in a minute. Once you have this cleaned out, underneath this rim, the only place you really put oil down here is this little hole, and you just put a couple of drops. We sell this here at the shop. I think this is the best oil pen is what it's called. This is a Tooltron, and I think they're $8.49 here at the shop. This is a machine oil made for doing different kinds of small motors. On your bobbin case, I don't know, or shuttle, I don't know how they're all made, but you can look at it and see if there's any place in it where you can get any gunk off of it. So mine has this rim right in here, so I always try to clean that well. And then that sits back in here, and you can usually hear your machine. It'll run better after you've oiled it. You can, if you don't normally clean it, then kind of listen to it, and then once you get it cleaned, listen to it again. Your machine will tell you when it needs to be cleaned if you listen close enough to it. So then you just put this all back together. And yours, of course, if yours isn't like this machine, then your parts are, of course, going to be different. That's standard stuff. In here, you'll notice there are some oil holes. And then I just oil everything really good where metal touches metal, which on this machine is just about everywhere. You can take the top part off, and you can get to your take-up lever, and you can see all of the different joints it has. And if you just oil those really, really good, and on the top, there's not a lot of cleaning. I mean, if you take your take your machine to the shop once a year to get it serviced, then they do more cleaning in here. I don't really do a lot of cleaning in here other than greasing. This is a lubricant. Singer still makes this lubricant, and on the new machines, most of those are belt driven, so you won't really need this. I just put this down between the gears, and then just kind of spin that around and get it through all of that. And again, anywhere there's metal touching metal, it's a good idea to give it a little bit of oil. Mine goes back together really easily on the top. So my machine, this is a cabinet that was built for my machine. So to get to the bottom of it, I have to unplug it underneath. And it lifts up. My machine has this little bottom plate that comes off. And I don't do this part very often just because it's hard to get to, and when I get in here I usually grease it really well and see all the stuff off of it. I usually grease it really well and blow it and then oil it. This kind of gives you a better look at the gears of this machine. I usually keep them pretty oiled and greased just because they work so much better. You can hear it. I may have already said that, sorry. But you can hear it when they start running rough. It's amazing that this is closed off and it still gets fuzz and lint inside of it. That's kind of amazing to me. Anyway, once again, wherever you see metal on metal, I just put a couple of drops of oil, however you want to say it. But it is truly critical, even on the new machines. Most of them you just put a drop or so down in your bobbin area. It's critical on those too to keep them lubricated, and it really just depends on how much you're going to be doing as to how often. I mean, it's kind of like changing the needle. I've heard people that didn't know to change a needle. You should change your needle every 8 to 10 hours of sewing, and you should at least blow out the fuzz. If you're sewing a hard 8 or 10 hours, then blow out the fuzz. Like when I go to retreat, I take all of my stuff to clean my machine, and because I'm sewing around the clock, maybe not around 24 hours around the clock, but I'm sewing a long time during that day and that evening. So I clean it both days or all 3 days, and they just run better. They run better, they sound better, and most of all, they last longer. And I think that's about it. I'll put this back together. I hope you have a great day. Happy quilting, and come back to see us. Bye-bye.